Yes, some places are harder to hear than others. Welcome to my channel. My name is Emily. I am so glad you're here. For those of you who are new, I am hard of hearing. I've had my hearing loss since birth and it's in both ears. I hope you stick around to the end of this video because if you do, I'm going to share a little bit about a project that started in 2005 that is making spaces more accessible to deaf people. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support and I hope to create a community where deaf and hard of hearing people can share their experiences, share the difficulties, the joys, the woes, the happiness, the pain, and understand that hey, yeah, we have a hearing loss or we're deaf, but we don't let it define us. That's the whole purpose of my channel, is to empower deaf and hard of hearing people as to how they can help and support their deaf or hard of hearing family members and friends. So like I said, yes, some places are harder to hear in than others. This all comes down to the building materials in your surroundings. So when you go outside, it's just a whole other beast compared to indoors. Outdoors has lots of uncontrollable background noise and the sky is literally the limit. So I'm going to focus on indoor building materials to show that yes, some places are harder to hear in than others. Here are some construction elements that make it difficult for hard of hearing or deaf people to hear in an indoor space. Number one, consider ceiling height. If you go into a building that has a high ceiling versus a low ceiling, you'll notice right away that as sound is projected, when it's in those tall ceiling places, it goes to the top of the ceiling and it takes a long time to come back. There's a delay, there's echoes, it is hard to understand what's going on in a tall ceiling room compared to a low ceiling room. Number two, pay attention to hard floors. What I mean by this is floors that are not carpet or have rugs. They're not absorbing the sound. Hard floors make the sound bounce off and echo more. So hardwood floors, tile, stone floors, those all make it more difficult to hear. This blends right into number three. If you're in a building that has stone or granite walls, like for instance, a state capitol building versus a home with drywall, you'll notice that the sound bounces and echoes through granite and stone and hard-walled hallways compared to home hallways that are smaller, most likely with a lower ceiling, and probably a soft floor if you're in the bedroom area. All of these elements contribute to whether or not it is hard or easy for a deaf or hard of hearing person to understand the sound. Next is the lighting. A lot of people don't really think about lighting. In order for a deaf or hard of hearing person, specifically a lip reader, to be able to understand what is going on in an environment, they need good lighting. And this is so that they can see the lips and be able to read those lips and understand what is being said. Harsh lighting causes strong shadows. You see these a lot when you go to a restaurant. The lights are above and people have shadows in their eyes and they look like they are from a horror movie. The reason the restaurants have poor lighting is because it makes the environment more cozy and entices people to stay there longer and therefore eat more, aka spend more, which is good for the restaurant. But if you're in an environment where you really want to talk and listen and hear with your friends, whether you're deaf or hard of hearing yourself or you have a friend that is, pay attention to the lighting. That will make a difference as to whether or not the deaf or hard of hearing person can understand what's going on. The next design element or construction material that influences whether or not a deaf or hard of hearing person has a harder or easier time listening in an environment is color palettes. So if you have a crazy color palette, for example, if the walls are a bright vibrating pink and yellow plaid, whoa, when a hard of hearing person is trying to focus on what you're saying but the wall is vibrating behind you, it becomes distracting and it is difficult to listen and understand what is going on. Versus if you have a cool tone or like a repose gray or a blue or solid colors, that allows for contrast between the person and the face. And also, I am an artist. I believe in the power of color theory. So if you have cool tones in your environment, it is easier to be calm and focus on what's going on. It helps deaf and hard of hearing people understand the sound that they're hearing. Number six, another design element that's really critical for deaf and hard of hearing people is seating patterns or just stationary patterns. So if people are standing and talking or if they're sitting and talking, a circle of people allows for the hard of hearing person or deaf person to be able to see everyone. It really is just that concept that because our ears don't work, we need to be able to see, and those visuals help us hear. So when seating or standing or whatever resting is involved, a circular pattern is best. Last but not least, background noise definitely influences whether or not a deaf or hard of hearing person can hear in an indoor environment. This background noise can be produced by a variety of things, whether there's a large crowd of people in the room, not very many people in the room, an air conditioning unit running, or a heater running, a dishwasher running, or a washer dryer running. Just all that humming, that vibrating, those elements of sound, or even sound through window, contribute to whether or not a hard of hearing or deaf person can understand what's going on around them. I hope these tips have helped. So there are 7 things that can make it easier or harder for a deaf or hard of hearing person to hear in a certain location indoors. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned a project that has been implemented to help create spaces that are conducive to deaf or hard of hearing people. This project is called Deaf Space. It was started in 2005 by architect Hansel Baumann in conjunction with the Deaf ASL Studies at Gallaudet University. This Deaf Space project is awesome because as I was creating the script for this video and thinking of all of these elements that make a space easier for me to hear, in this project they use more sophisticated design terms, but it ultimately matched up with what I shared in this video. So if you want, check out the Deaf Project by Gallaudet University and Hansel Baumann. I hope this helped. So do you have spaces that are easier or harder for you to hear? I want to hear about them in the comments below. For example, it's easier for me to hear at home than it is when I go to the basketball court. The basketball courts are indoors, but they have those hardwood floors and really high ceilings. It makes it so hard to hear. What about you? Like I said, I want to hear where it's easier or harder for you to hear in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this video today. I hope you have a great day and look forward to my next video. Bye!